Role of local social welfare and development offices. The LSWDO, in coordination with the concerned government units, shall make available the following services for abused kasambahay: temporary shelter, counseling, free legal services, medical or psychological services, livelihood and skills training. The LSWDO may seek the assistance from the DSWD to provide such services to the abused kasambahay. Post-employment notice of termination of employment contract. In case the duration of employment is specified in the contract, the kasambahay and the employer may mutually agree upon notice to terminate the contract of employment before the expiration of its term. In case the duration is not determined by stipulation or by nature of service, the employer or the kasambahay may give notice to end the employment relationship 5 days before the intended termination of employment. Termination of employment by the domestic worker. The domestic worker may terminate the employment relationship at any time before the expiration of the contract for any of the following causes: verbal or emotional abuse, inhuman treatment including physical abuse, commission of a crime or offense, violation by the employer of the terms and conditions of the employment contract, lastly, any disease prejudicial to the health of the domestic worker. Termination of employment by the employer. An employer may terminate the employment of the domestic worker at any time before the expiration of the contract for any of the following causes: misconduct or willful disobedience, gross or habitual neglect, fraud or willful breach of trust, commission of a crime or offense, violation by the domestic worker of the terms and conditions, and any disease prejudicial to the health of the domestic worker. Kasambahay leaves without cause. Pregnancy and marriage of the kasambahay are not valid grounds for termination of employment. If the kasambahay leaves without cause, any unpaid salary due not exceeding the equivalent of 15 days' work shall be forfeited. Private employment agencies. Regulation of private employment agencies. The DOLE shall maintain a system of licensing and regulation of private employment agencies to ensure the protection of the employer and the kasambahay recruited and hired through the employment agencies. Responsibilities of PEA. Ensure that the kasambahay is qualified, secure the best terms and conditions, ensure that the employment agreement, provide a pre-employment orientation, ensure that the kasambahay is not required to pay any recruitment fees, keep copies of employment contracts and agreements, assist the kasambahay in filing his or her complaints, cooperate with the government agencies in rescue operations, and assume joint and solidary liability with the employer for payment of wages and other benefits.